Fuck you know.
Oh, God. Bet you thought I was gone. Ha ha ha. Bet you thought I was gone. No, I'm here to stay. Even though I spent the kind of introduction of my last couple of videos being like,
"Hey guys, please can you get me to 500 subscribers?"
and then you guy took off 8 days from making videos, which is exactly what you need to do to get your videos into the algorithm. A1 YouTube tactics from me. Welcome to the channel, guys. Welcome back to the channel, any of you that have subscribed. Not much has happened really in the last week, except for Tom Garrett got caught wanking his mate off. Well, he did 7 years ago, and now the video has surfaced. And my thoughts on that is that I don't care really. So anyway, let's get into today's video, where you watch a guy who knows not much, if anything, about anything, talk about something. Let's talk about Chelsea. Chelsea have just beaten Aston Villa in the FA Cup 3-1, with Gallagher, Jackson and Fernandes amongst the goal scorers. Conor Gallagher picked up his first goal of the season. We're in February, by the way. It was a lovely finish into the top corner, and then Nicholas Jackson also grabbed a beautiful definite header. And if you actually watch that goal back, it makes it even better when you realise that I don't think he saw it till late. The cross was whipped in with a lot of pace. Basically, from the angle that I saw it, it looked like the defender was blocking Jackson's view. So the fact that he's still been able to kind of like definitely headed it into the bottom corner was really good. I was really impressed by that bit. And then of course Enzo Fernandez scored a beautiful free kick from outside the box right into the top corner. Although I have seen shouts of people saying, oh, this is the goal of the season so far. I'm not sure, you tell me. I'm not sure about that one. But Chelsea looked really good, I'll be honest. They looked really sharp. Malo Gusto and Noni Madueke both played really well for Chelsea, and they had no issue creating big chances either. If you look at the stats, Chelsea created 5 big chances, scored 3, and then obviously Villa had their 1 goal. They didn't really create much, and overall it was just a very solid performance from Chelsea, which was against a very strong Aston Villa side at Villa Park. You know, it's not like it's an easy game. Like obviously they beat Middlesbrough 6-1, and they've beaten a few other smaller sides in the cups, but Villa not an easy team to beat, especially when you look at Villa's starting 11. It was very close to their strongest 11. They still had Emi Martinez starting in goal, Ollie Watkins, John McGinn. They had some of their best players on the pitch, so hats off to Chelsea. I'm not going to take anything away from that performance. Now, I know that this is a good result in a season which is littered in bad results for Chelsea, but I certainly think that this result shows that Chelsea at least have it in them to perform well. They've obviously shown glimpses of quality as well against Man City in the 4-4 draw. You could argue that they showed that in the 4-1 win against Tottenham, although Tottenham had, I think, 2 players went off injured and a red card. I also think that all the questions over Mauricio Pochettino seriously need to stop or calm down a little bit, because he hasn't even been at Chelsea for a full season yet, and we've got fans calling for Mauricio Pochettino to be sacked. And I think that sacking Mauricio Pochettino would do absolutely nothing. If anything, it would just waste, 7 or 8 months of hard work. Chelsea, the biggest issue this season is inconsistency. They will go out and take points away from City. They'll beat Spurs, they'll fucking draw to Liverpool, beat Liverpool, but then they'll also go and get battered by Wolves 4-2. So, like I said, the issue is the inconsistency with Chelsea. However, I think Chelsea have shown enough this season that it qualifies Pochettino to deserve more time, and he at least needs another transfer window. Like, if you look at the average age of the squad that Chelsea put out against Villa, the average age was 23.3 years, which is such a young squad. I think that the sort of remedy to Chelsea's badness this season and last season is that they are just lacking a lot of experience. If you look at the players that they've lost amongst the chaos of all the players they've brought in, they've lost the likes of Cesar Azpilicueta, they've lost Mateo Kovacic, they've lost N'Golo Kante, they lost Marcus Alonso not that long ago, Tammy Abraham, Fikayo Tomori, who I know were very young, Mason Mount's another one, but that conversation's been had a million times by a million people of how Chelsea had this, what seemingly was a very young, talented generation of players who they then just kind of sold. You look at like Mason Mount, Fikayo Tomori, Tammy Abraham, Billy Gilmore, but they still managed to hang on to a few experienced players. You look at Reece James and Ben Chilwell, who obviously both have struggled a lot with injuries. I'm basically saying that the entire kind of conversation around Chelsea, to me at least, seems a little bit mental, because sure, you had a bad season last season. This season you sat in 11th in February, which isn't great. You are through to a cup final, however, against Liverpool. Whether you'll win that, I think, if you were to ask the bookies, then you're definitely not going to be the favourites. You brought in all these young players, right? The way that Todd Boehly has sort of taken over Chelsea, that can be criticised till the cows come home. We can pick that apart forever, you know, in the terms of pure chaos of handing out 7-8 year contracts, bringing in loads and loads of unproven players who haven't proven it in the Premier League. And like I said, it's all just been very chaotic, very what seems to be unorganised and mismanaged. However, Chelsea have now got the young squad, right? You've now got the heaps upon heaps of young world-class or potential world-class talent. Enzo Fernandez, Mykhailo Mudryk, Nicholas Jackson, the centre-backs you've brought in, Romeo Lavia, Moises Caicedo, like some genuinely really interesting young players there. Obviously, Pochettino has basically just got a squad of unproven, young, inexperienced players. And you'd expect when these players are struggling, as they have over the last couple of seasons, for the more experienced players to step up in the squad. Now let's have a look at the more experienced players in Chelsea's squad. You look at maybe Hugo Sanchez has played a few seasons at Brighton. I don't actually know how long he was at Brighton. I'm not sure if he was there for very long. He's played Premier League football before at least, which in this conversation qualifies as an experienced player. You then look at Raheem Sterling, who is one of the best wingers the Premier League has ever seen in terms of his trophy cabinet. He scored over 100 Premier League goals. He was part of obviously the Centurions. He's played under Pep Guardiola. So he's got heaps upon heaps of experience. But again, Raheem Sterling this season and last, since he really signed for Chelsea, again has been very hot or cold. Like he goes through purple patches where he's unbelievable, but then he'll go quiet for another couple of months. And you know, I'm not a Chelsea fan, and as a neutral, I suppose, I sometimes forget that Raheem Sterling even plays for Chelsea, which shows how kind of inconsistent he has been. Then you also look at Reece James. No fault of his own, Reece James has been injured fucking loads, right? So you can't rely on somebody who's not going to be playing every week. And then maybe Ben Chilwell as well, but again, he's had injury troubles. Thiago Silva, you know, he's 39 years old. He has struggled with fitness and injuries, and realistically is probably going to be moving on at the end of the season. This Chelsea squad, like I said, is just lacking experience. I think Todd Boehly would admit that he tried to do too much too quickly at Chelsea, with the entire squad essentially being turned over in the space of 2 years. But it is what it is now. That you can't go back and change how Todd Boehly decided to kind of mismanage the transfers and the running of the club. And there's no way that Chelsea are going to be able to have another huge spending spree with FFP basically being sanctioned or threatened to being sanctioned onto so many of the top clubs. Recently we've seen reports of, like I said, Chelsea, Villa, Nottingham Forest, Man City, obviously Everton had a points deduction. So for them to then go out and spend another 100 million, I just don't think that's going to happen. Like I said, they are probably in breach of financial fair play rules already. So to then go and spend another 200 million, God knows what their sanctions would be, and I don't think they're stupid enough to do that. However, like I said, Chelsea have now got the young squad. They've got the young talent. As much as you probably don't want to do this, Chelsea fans, this season is going to be a write-off. The best you can hope for maybe is like 7th or 8th, maybe get into a Conference League place. However, got the rest of the season to both back Mauricio Pochettino and allow him to continue to teach his stylings of play, allow him to continue to kind of work with the squad that you've got, develop them so that the next year then they've got another 4 or 5 months of Premier League football under their belts, and generally just again helps them to progress. That also gives Mauricio Pochettino time to figure out which players in the squad aren't quite at the level he needs them to be yet, and then they can, because Chelsea are famous for their loan system, so he can pick a few, if not a lot, of these younger players who have the potential to be class but aren't quite there yet, and send them out on loan, allow them to get a bit of first team football under their belts, allow them to get used to playing in a team every single week, and then obviously in a couple of years or in a year or whatever, bring them back and see if that can help them develop and help them to get Chelsea to where they used to be. Alongside sending players out of loan and getting players out the club, I also just think that Chelsea now need to focus on sensible signings, right? They need to focus on Premier League players or ex-Prem players maybe, but who have got Premier League experience, who have got experience on what it's like to play in the Premier League week in, week out for 9 months of the year. They understand what it takes to win football matches, and they can come into this Chelsea squad and they can take a bit of leadership, you know what I mean? They can show the younger players how to dig in when the odds are against you, and how to just play Premier League football and get this team to a Premier League top 4 standard. And like when I talk about sensible transfers, I mean players who may not be 22 and the next hottest prospect on the market. I mean experienced players know how to lead this young squad to win football matches, which is the issue at the moment. Obviously there's a lot more nuance to the Chelsea problems than just that. However, the bottom bottom line, the fundamental is they are not winning enough football games. And I like I said, I think that Mauricio Pochettino seems to be getting a brunt of the criticism, and I don't think the Chelsea problem is that bad. It's as simple as your squad has not got enough Premier League experience in it. There is not enough Premier League experience to expect this group of players to all of a sudden just click like that and become top four challengers. It's not going to happen like that. You need more experiences. Like I said, if you look at the squad, how many of them hadn't kicked a football in the Premier League 2 years ago? The majority of the squad. And I think that it's also a good thing to keep expectations realistic, to manage those expectations. And next season, even if Chelsea do go out and have a really good transfer window, a solid transfer window, where they get in solid players with experience, then think, right, so if we don't get top 3, then it's fucking a write-off of a season that's fair. No. It takes time. It takes ages to develop a squad into a consistently good side. And yeah, get these experienced players in, and then hope for top 6. Hope for the Europa League maybe. Build on that. See if you can win the Europa League. See if you can get to an FA Cup semi-final. See if you can spend, a couple of months in the top 4. Just manage the expectations. Don't expect it to just go from, oh well, we've been dreadful for the last 2 years, to then, well, we've got some experienced players in, so now expect us to be fucking top 3 and top 4 again. Like, again, you need to have patience. It's the same thing that will happen to Liverpool when Klopp leaves. It happened to Arsenal when Wenger left, to Man United when Ferguson left. It'll happen once Guardiola leaves Man City. This is just the natural law of football, and Chelsea fans need to stop. And I'm not talking about all Chelsea fans, I'm only talking about a few, but some Chelsea fans need to stop being so spoiled, because they are just repeating themselves constantly. It's a problem with Thomas Tuchel, a problem with Maurizio Sarri, it's a problem with fucking Antonio Conte, it's a problem with Graham Potter, and now it's a problem with Frank Lampard, now it's a problem with Mauricio Pochettino. It's just the same bullshit. It's like, there's not a nice feeling around the club, so therefore we want Pochettino out. You can get any manager of world football into this Chelsea squad. They're not going to turn it around. They're not going to be able to sustain it for a long period of time, any better than Mauricio Pochettino can. You need to give him time. You need to give him freedom. You need to allow Chelsea to finish 12th one season. So yeah, in my opinion, all these Chelsea fans calling for Pochettino's head, it's just ridiculous, because you'll just get another manager in and then make the same complaints 6 months later. So for me, you've got to just write off this season. You've got to let Chelsea recognise some sensible transfer targets who aren't snazzy, who aren't like rock star footballers, who are just solid, and then let Pochettino cook. I guess that's what I'm saying. However, I might be wrong. I probably am wrong. As I said, I know nothing about anything. But Chelsea fans, let me know if I'm off the mark here, and also neutral fans, let me know if I'm off the mark. I think Pochettino is fine, and I think Chelsea are fine. Oh no, the club's in crisis. It's not a crisis. You're not in a relegation battle. You know what I mean? You haven't been docked 15 points for FFP sanctions or whatever. So anyway guys, that's it for today's video. If you have enjoyed, please like, subscribe. Hope you have a good week guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.